This is Star Wars in Character, the podcast that takes a closer look at some of the characters in the Star Wars universe you probably never noticed. Backstories, histories, and details you never knew, wanted to know, or ever need to know. Now here are this week's panelists of Star Wars in Character.
Today we are talking about RX-24, nickname Rex.
Captain Rex.
Captain Rex.
Not that Rex.
You show Rex some respect.
RX-24 first made his appearance in Star Tours.
Star Tours.
Thank you, Rick Olay.
Why are you being so patronizing, Chris?
Because I'm going to be actually listening to this one more than...
As opposed to the other ones that you know.
Exactly.
That is funny.
Well, my name is Christopher Robin.
Ooh. Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh, bother.
Is it...
You were so proud of these.
I was. I saw that thing out there. Write that fucker down.
What, Christopher Robin?
Yeah.
You and E.E. Milne.
Today I am joined by the Mad Hatter.
How about the Mad Matter?
Ah.
I like the Mad Hatter.
Yeah, that is actually better. Yep.
It reminds me of the AT-AT one.
Mad Hat. Yep.
Well, to my right, I have Cruella de Vil.
You're so proud.
Isn't that awesome? And the last one, Timony Cricket.
Yeah, I like that.
Sing it, Tim.
When you wish upon a star.
Wars in Character.
Makes no difference who you are.
Chris Day, Tim, and Matt.
Something Disney. Something
Disney.
Something good.
Balls.
That's all I got.
All right. That's all that we want.
Balls for Bill Clinton.
Bill Clay, that one's for you.
Yeah, that song's for you, pal.
Well, this one's going to be, the bus driver's going to be the Mad Hatter.
That's right.
Ooh.
Tell us about RX-24.
All right, I'll do my best. I'm going to start off by explaining where the idea for this character came from. When we were all in Florida for Celebration, we thought we were going to do a couple episodes to kind of build up a buffer, but we didn't realize how much other stuff we'd be doing, and by the time we got home, the last thing we wanted to do was, talk to each other anymore.
Right.
So my idea was, hey, since we're all in Florida, let's do a Star Tours character, and that's the one I picked and I said I'd do. So we obviously, we didn't get to do that, but I was like, I did the research, and the story's actually kind of fun. So I asked you guys if you'd mind if you'd let me go ahead and do this, and you did. So for better or for worse, that's what's going to happen.
Hey.
All right. So, RX-24, his nickname is Rex, or Captain Rex, as Dave and Chris pointed out. And he is part of the RX series of pilot droids. Now, I got a little bit of some statistical information first, because it brought up some questions I had that I got the answers to finally before we get into his backstory. So I'm going to just rattle off some of the highlights of this droid series. One, they used a repulsor lift for their locomotion. They didn't have bipeds or wheels or treadmills. They just floated up and off the ground, apparently, even though you don't actually ever see that happen on a ride. They have 3-clawed limbs to manipulate starship controls, and they were designed mainly to be used for repetitive tasks, such as docking and undocking ships, maneuvering cargo between vessels, and piloting passenger craft, which is, I'm assuming, why they were chosen to freight tourists back and forth from Endor.
So, but if they weren't doing that, they'd just be like moving shit around a warehouse.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, at least spaceship-wise. I'd imagine they'd probably be ahead of unmanned cargo runs where you got, when you're shipping, say, like a bunch of steel, you don't have to have atmospheric controls or any kind of life support, so you can save some money by throwing this guy in there and then turn off all that shit and, have a cheaper cargo freight to charge your customer.
There you go.
Oh, that's kind of interesting.
Okay. I just pulled that right on my ass.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, if that's like a widespread thing in the Star Wars universe, that's pretty damn clever. Like, Oh, but I guess it's not, so screw it.
Well then. Let's see what else I got here. They were known for their toughness and reliability, but when they did fail epically. And we're going to get into that here in just a little bit. Yeah. So now here's where we've had this before. He was running on a heuristic, I think is how you say it, heuristic processor. Now, I think the Magna Guard is the one where I first heard of that processor. And I went through and looked this up.
Oh, yeah.
Heuristic processor, it's an advanced processor that allows a droid to learn by doing rather than being pre-programmed with repetitive tasks. So this processor is given a basic set of functions, and from that functions, it can learn more by doing and experiencing pretty much like life lessons.
Okay, so it learns.
Okay.
Yes, it learns.
Like a learning computer or something.
Sort of, yeah. Even though at the end of Star Tours, he kind of negates that fact by saying, I'm still getting used to my programming, but, this is another one of those contradictory things that happens in Star Wars.
Okay.
He was a joint droid project of the industrial, and I will never know how to say this word correctly, automaton?
It's
Something?
automaton.
Tomato.
Okay, industrial automaton and a Rubens robot system.
Okay.
And the goal was to produce a hybrid pilot/protocol droid that could maintain vessels and interact with humans or other life forms, I suppose.
Are they all? I mean, I don't want to get ahead of the story because I really, really want to hear everything because
Okay.
I'm really interested in this character. Are they all? Do they like? How can I say this? Do they all have the same voice? They all have the same programming? Are they given like individuality?
I don't recall coming across my notes. I would guess, based on the history of Star Wars, that is probably the case because we've seen several C-3PO type units and they all have different voices.
Mhm.
Maybe similar personalities, like kind of the uptight, almost prissy type thing, but they definitely had little nuance to their personality. And I'll also say this, actually, let's say this, because they're heuristically programmed or whatever you call it, they learn, I'd imagine since they're all in different scenarios, they're going to end up being different personalities anyway, just based on the type of droid that they are.
Okay, that sounds good to me. I just didn't know if it was like if they were all like that whiny kind of, like the guy on the friggin' ride.
Yeah,
So,
I would hope that they use different voices. I don't know that to be true, but I'm going to again say history has shown us that is probably the case.
okay. I'm loving this so far.
All right, okay. So the last statistical information before we get into his particular backstory is that this RX series was most commonly used in spaceports, most notably, of course, the Star Wars, I don't know what you call it, tourist, I don't want to say attraction because that's the right, that's the Star Tours company will say. They use this droid to pilot their Star Speeder 3000 passenger vessel service to the forest moon of Endor. The droid designation RX-24 piloted the Star Tours Flight 45 specifically. That is the flight to Endor. And now that's where we're finally going to start talking about the droid, unless you have any other questions that I can completely make up bullshit answers to.
Are there peanuts on this trip?
Peanuts?
No eating, drinking, flash photography, smoking, or I forget what the other one is. Something like that. Videotaping.
Do the seats come dislodged on this reflect?
Yeah,
like
are they
on the
sliding around the airplane?
Yeah. Is there a flotation device?
Yes, there's a flotation device. Assuming you bought a stuffed animal, there is a flotation device under your seat.
So wait a second. You said 3,000 seat?
No, 3000 series.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought you said 3,000 seat. I'm like, there's only about 40 seats.
Yeah, I
in
was going
this.
to say it's short by about 2,960, if that's true, right?
Yeah, long wait, dude. Everyone gets buckled.
I was wondering if you were supposed to suspend your disbelief to the point where you thought there were thousands of people sitting behind you.
No, I only mentioned the series number because that comes into play a little bit, not directly with him, but part of his backstory. So I wanted to note that he piloted the Star Speeder 3000 specifically.
The Star Speeder 3000.
Yep. All right. So now on to good old Rex himself. RX-24. Okay. Rex was originally purchased during the rise of the Empire and meant to pilot the Star Speeder 1000. There, we're going to get right into it. So he wasn't fully functioning or repaired and put into production until the construction and launch of the Star Speeder 3000. And that it takes place around the Battle of Endor, or I guess 4 ABY, after the Battle of Yavin.
Okay.
Now, the Star Speeder 3000 or 1000, they didn't give a date on it, but judging by what the ride is now, that's what you're riding. And I'm kind of going out of universe now. That is, what would you say? That's in use during between the prequels. So I guess that's the Rise of the Empire, just like they said. So we're going to say probably about 20 years between the two. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, I guess.
About that, yeah.
All
Okay.
right, so it took him about 20 years to repair him.
So he had a specialty in flying to and from Naboo. I mean, not Naboo, Endor.
Endor? Well, he didn't have the specialty. That's what they eventually used him for. He arrived defective. To what extent, I don't really know. But that's why he was not... They've had him for 20 years, and it took him 20 years to get him flight-worthy, is what I'm getting out of this backstory.
Okay, 20 years.
Yep.
And we just happen to, every single time you ride the ride, be on his first flight.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Okay.
It's like Groundhog Day.
Well, maybe you could extend that to another fault in his programming. Maybe he just doesn't remember that it's not his first flight. Maybe
he's not a learning droid.
Yeah, maybe he's got a...
And that could be why he was defective. That's a good point.
Yeah. Like maybe when he's saying that to you, it's just because he's broken and it's really his, millionth flight or something like that, and he's just an idiot.
Could be. Well, he is kind of stupid. We know that. He flies into shit, and I guess we'll get into that. Because now this part of his backstory is pretty much a description of the ride. So I'll summarize as best I can here before we get into some other aspects of the character, I guess, in a sense. If you haven't been on a ride, he is supposed to be piloting... Well, he does pilot Flight 45, which its nickname is the Endor Express. It's nonstop service to the forest moon of Endor. Well, long story short, Rex brings the ship out of light speed too late, and they shoot right past Endor and goes right into a comet field. I don't know what you call that. It's not quite an asteroid field. A comet storm, maybe? Circumnavigate some comets.
Comets!
There you go. Exactly right.
Comet upstairs.
And after narrowly surviving the comet ordeal, he manages to guide the ship in the middle of an X-Wing and TIE Fighter dogfight, gets snagged in a Star Destroyer's tractor beam, after released, then helps assist on an attack run onto a Death Star. And I say a Death Star because the official name for this Death Star on Wikipedia, and now I find out in the Lucasfilm continuity database, is Death Star 3. So this is not the Death Star from Star Wars, nor the Death Star from Return of the Jedi. This is a new Death Star.
Bigger and better than 1 and 2?
Well, okay. I started scraping together some notes to try to explain this, and then my story got a little bit out of control. So this is what I was alluding to earlier off air. I have a new segment I'd like to try out tonight, because this might be my first and last time ever hosting, so I'm going to take advantage of the entire episode. And I have a segment where I'm going to I have a story written. I think I fairly successfully, if not bullshittingly, explained this Death Star. And I will do that after I'm done this character story, if I may, if you will indulge me.
I would love to hear that, because when we were down in Florida, we're at Matt's house, we're all sitting around, we're drinking, we're doing whatever, and Matt's like, yeah, talking about doing this character and his attack on Death Star 3. And I'm like, half paying attention, and I'm like, what are you talking about?
Right.
And Matt was like, oh no, this is canon. This is not a Death Star you've seen before.
Right.
And I was like immediately
intrigued,
and he was like, "Oh, explain the whole thing."
More to follow.
Now it's only I don't see in my notes specifically. No, I do. I have it at the end. Okay, I'll wait for that. Where the canon, the current canon comes in. So I'll go back to the story. Like I said, we'll get to that. Hopefully that's interesting. If not, I have the power to edit, and you may never hear that. But anyway,
I want to hear it.
Okay. All right. So they do the attack on the Death Star. They go back to the Star Tours space station, returning the paying passengers who never actually have gotten to Endor. Now, there's no real explanation for what went wrong, but it can probably be attributed to a combination of this being his first flight. He was a defective droid to begin with, and a heuristic processor. He didn't have a whole lot of experience to work from. So, considering it was his first flight and he had minimal programming, considering everyone got out alive is actually, I consider that a minor success of sorts.
So we all have Rex to thank for our lives.
Pretty much, yeah. If we've all been on Star Tours, yep. Okay, now we're getting into a little bit of the backstory here. This is post what you've seen on the ride. The Star Tours travel agency hedged a lot of their funds up against the new popularity of the Forest Moon of Endor, with it being the birthplace of the fall of the Empire, and they lost most, if not all, of their money on this one fiasco because of the passengers' endangerment, the fact that they never actually got to what they were paying for. There was lawsuits that followed. There was lots of bloody battles in court, and Star Tours pretty much lost their ass on this bet that they were going to make a shitload of money on tours to Endor. And
this is on like the pay. This is not the part where you've
not yet.
Okay,
Nope.
That's awesome. I love that.
Okay,
like that self-aware kind of, taking the fictional thing and trying to make it seem a little more real. I love that kind of stuff. Like that's really clever. Like, did Disney come up with that?
I don't know who came up with it. It doesn't. That's one of the drawbacks of Wikipedia. Sometimes there's good and bad, and I'd like the answer to both. Sometimes who wrote the good stuff and who wrote the bad stuff. They don't really necessarily always acknowledge directly who did it. They'll give like a list of source material, but then you have to, of course, search from there. I did not note the source material. I bet you I probably did read what it was, but I did not write it down. I've since forgotten.
I'm excited.
It's really cool. I love stuff like that. So I hope that there's more.
No, well, so so like I said, a lot of bloody court battles. The Star Tours travel agency, that's what it's called, the travel agency, went out of business just months after the Battle of Endor. So they were really, hoping to get this route fixed and whatnot, and turns out actually being their undoing. So that was it for the Star Tours travel agency. But for Rex himself, in the short time he was online and functioning, he did manage to strike up a romance, believe it or not.
Ooh.
Bow chicka meow meow.
Yeah.
Romance.
Lay in the pipe.
Yep. There's a droid named Rox N.
Oh,
And she
Put
worked
on your red light.
You don't have to put on the
Rox N got his rocks all off.
There you go. Rex and Rox.
And you're done for this episode.
I'm done.
She worked at the information kiosk, or maybe I meant to write she worked as the information kiosk. I'm not sure which one I meant to write there. For the Star Tours travel agency. And she tended to swoon and gush at the mere mention of Rex's name.
You never see her like in the queue?
You do? Well, that's the interesting part. This particular droid only exists in the Disney Tokyo ride.
Oh.
Whoa.
Why don't we get to see him?
I don't know. Rex got around. He might have had a little chippy in every port for all we know.
That's true.
There's a scene where she comes over with a screw and says, "Want a screw?"
And Roxanne, I want to be your droid.
That astromech with the giant cone head might be his girl in Florida for all we know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Giant cones.
That's right.
Cones.
Look at the cones on that one.
Oh, this is awesome.
So there's no official word whether or not Rex was dismantled or his memory wiped or what happened to him after Flight 45. So we don't know if he's just sitting in a box somewhere or if he's doing one of those unmanned cargo freights that we just made up moments ago. No one knows.
And that's the end?
That is the end of his story. I've actually got some pretty decent backstory information on the ride and a little bit about the character too coming up. But yeah, if you got anything you want to add about the character before I go into that, go for it.
Well, I mean, my only experience is going on the ride over and over and over again. And even today, I sat and watched. I'll put it up on our Facebook page. It's pretty cool. I mean, there are people that are nostalgic about the ride, and I'm one of them. And I haven't been on the new one. You guys have. But this guy, and he must have been a Disney employee because he put up that this was his last time going on the ride. And he walks into the ride, films the whole thing. There's no one else on the ride but him. So I have a feeling he had some kind of connections that he could, got on it before it was open or something like that. And this guy has the ride memorized to the point where, like, if something's going to happen on the little screen on the right, before it happens even, he's already over there and zoomed in on it. And then when the little side screen isn't being used, he goes back to the main screen. And I just, even watching this video, I love it. And I always will. So I'm really, as much as I like listening to all that stuff, I'm really more interested in the backstory, like the Disney stuff.
I find it actually really fascinating that this Wikipedia page exists at the length it does only because the ride closed. Like, if the ride didn't close, you wouldn't have this backstory, because Rex is in the queue line both in California and Florida, because I had the actually really weird timing and unique opportunity to ride Star Tours in both California and Orlando in the same month. So the memories are both fresh in my mind. And he's in both queue lines, and he has a defective sticker slapped on him.
Oh, yeah?
So because he appears in the new ride and the old ride closed is the only reason that this story even exists, which is, I think, funny. So the fact that the ride was changed, if it was still going on, I don't think half this backstory would exist. I think really just that his programming was messed up and that he's got a girlfriend would be the only parts, because as far as the continuity would go, the Star Tours agency is still open. So this whole lawyer stuff that part wouldn't even exist.
So, other than that, what you just said about him, that's his only involvement in the new version of the ride.
Yep.
Okay.
In fact, I took a decent picture of him in California, but I got a really good picture of him in Disney World just last week, because it was there was like no one in line behind me, so I could sit there and stop and make sure it focused. So I'll put that on there, and you can clearly see the defective sticker on him.
Okay. That's what Disney, to me, has always been the masters of. It's the little things and the little touches that really, the paying attention to detail that other people don't necessarily do. So something like that, I'll eat that shit up.
Yep. All right. Well, I got some behind the scenes stuff, a lot to do with the ride. I can go into that now if you'd like.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
All right. Okay. It was George Lucas's idea to add the droid pilot to help bridge the gap between the space flight simulation technology experience and the writers. Now, his idea was to call him Crazy Harry and be a sarcastic, wisecracking veteran from the Clone Wars. Yes. Thankfully, ride director Tony Baxter had the better idea of making him a little nervous and somewhat wide-eyed to help draw the writer's sympathy and make it a bit more, make the lines more identifiable, like I've always wanted to do this and those types of things. He kind of was echoing a majority of what the writers were doing when you get to that point in the ride. So kudos for Tony for standing up to that idea, because the other idea sounded just terrible.
Yeah. So he was supposed to be like almost like an obnoxious cab driver, kind of like.
Sounds like it, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, as annoying as that thing is at times, like over the years, kind of like grew to like it more and more. And you're right. I never really thought about that. The things that he's saying are the things that a lot of people are thinking, especially people our age who, I mean, that technology's dated it, now. But when it first opened, that flight simulator kind of technology, and you're in that trench, I mean, how many freaking all of us would wanted to do that?
Yeah, and did you really notice how annoying he was the first time you rode it, honestly, because you're just so in awe of how awesome this ride is? You probably didn't notice. You did hear him, and like you said, it echoed what you were thinking, but you didn't notice how annoying he was until you got to know the ride. At least that's what happened to me.
I didn't even care about him, man.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Like, he only became annoying because of the repetition of hearing the same corny lines over and over again in that voice.
Right. Speaking of the voice, that's the next fact I had. The ride development team wanted to find a voice actor for Rex. There you go. Yep. And just as if on cue, my next line is the idea that Rex would scream frequently at some of the more harrowing moments of the ride led to them casting Paul Rubens.
Is that one of your favorite movies of all time?
That's one of mine, definitely.
Yeah.
Dave's mic come unplugged now too?
He said he was talking to Tim.
Yeah.
Oh, Tim. I thought you said Dave. Okay.
Tim is one of mine.
That's one of mine, yeah, definitely. I love that movie.
I didn't know that was Paul Rubens till recently, and Chris told me.
I didn't know that the first few times I rode on it. I found out some at some point between moving to Florida. And once you know that, you can't not hear that that's Paul Rubens, but I didn't know it either for the longest time. But once it's in your head, you can't get it out.
He doesn't sound that much. I mean, he's changed his voice a little. Some things he says, especially when he is yelling, it's unmistakable. But for the most part, he does a different voice. It's not just him doing Pee-wee.
That was one of the problems. I guess the whoever originally wanted to, I don't know which of these two producers. It was a discussion between the ride producers Tom Fitzgerald and Mark Eads of whether or not to use them, mainly because of the Pee Wee Herman thing. Well, one producer didn't want it, the other one did, but then I guess whichever producer was arguing heard him in Flight of the Navigator, and that was the deciding factor. Like, okay, he can do more than Pee Wee Herman. Okay, we'll give it a shot, and that's where that decision was made. Now, for those that don't know who Pee Wee Herman is, or I'm sorry, Paul Rubens is, I thought of Dave's description of Claire Davenport immediately, where Dave said Claire Davenport wasn't afraid to be lured in movies. Well, Paul Rubens wasn't afraid to be lured in movie theaters. I'm sorry, I had to say it.
Now,
did they ever contemplate shutting down, re-recording, or anything when I assume his scandal happened after this, because that ride was open for a long time.
Like, it happened like 91 or 92, something like that.
Surprisingly, no. Not only is there no... Well, I shouldn't say I don't know that they didn't contemplate it. There's been nothing published about it. Nothing published about that. And I didn't even know this, apparently Paul Rubens was under investigation for possibly owning some child porn on his computer, which he was later vindicated of. But the fact that... You're right. Disney usually doesn't mess around with that stuff. Whether or not they're found guilty, they tend to sweep that under the carpet as quick as possible.
They took that Captain EO down like that. It was like you didn't even have to think about it. They took Captain EO down for years.
Why was that, Tim?
What's that?
Why was that? Why would they do that?
Why would they take Captain EO down?
And what happened with Michael Jackson? Please go on.
He's being facetious. That was down before Michael Jackson's scandal, though, wasn't it?
Was it? I thought they took it down.
Yeah, because they already had another ride in place. It was Honey, I Shrunk the Kids at that point.
Oh, for some reason, yeah. I thought that was a big thing. Like,
well, I know
when the first Michael Jackson scandal happened.
I know for a fact because I was actually on the ride the week this happened. When Jeffrey Jones first got in trouble, they stopped playing. They turned off all the pre-show films of Jeffrey Jones in the Alien Encounter, because we went on that ride the same week that happened, and you're sitting in the room where you're supposed to see a video and nothing is happening.
Did they re-record it with somebody else?
No, they eventually closed. They actually closed it very shortly. They took that down, but they left his voice in the ride. Then he actually got arrested or got charged. Then they shut the ride down, and then it opened as a Stitch Encounter a year later.
Wow.
So they shut down the whole ride because of his shenanigans.
They don't mess around with stuff like that. And it was for all those reasons. I was shocked that they then brought back Captain EO.
Yeah.
Because
you're right.
Whether or not Michael Jackson had died or not, that stuff, something went down. And here they are still showing his movie in The Happiest Place on Earth with kids watching it going, who's that dude?
Someone went down.
Oh, boy. What do you mean by that, Chris?
I don't know, but when I said it, Dave's head just went so far back going, oh my God.
Sometimes when you say things, I just get really quiet because I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
Oh, man. All right. I don't even know how to segue out of that, so I'll just say this. Other voice actors considered for the part, Billy Barty, which I can't even imagine, and the original Megatron, Frank Welker. That's his name.
Well, I think they made the right choice.
I think so, too.
I think we're fans of Paul Rubens. Forget about movie theaters. I don't give a shit about that. I mean, whatever. Now, you said the name of the company was something or other.
Yeah, it was part of Industrial Automaton, whatever it is, and the Rubens factory or something like that.
Yeah.
I feel like Tim... Now I know why Tim has difficulty finding his notes again. This is the first time I worked from paper notes, and I can't find that, so I won't make... I was going to say I won't make fun of him anymore, but that's not going to happen.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, Rubens something. I don't know. Look it up. It's on Wikipedia. Rubens Robot Systems. I found it.
There you go.
A couple more behind-the-scenes facts. Now we're talking totally about the ride here. I didn't know this. I didn't know Star Tours initially opened in Disneyland. I always thought it opened in Disney World for some reason because, I don't know, I guess I figure, everything happens in Disney World first with it being bigger, but that's not the case. Opened in Disneyland, then in Tokyo and Disney World in the same year, and then finally in Disneyland Paris. Now, this version that we just described, it's all but a memory, except, and I didn't know this either, and I might make the trip to Europe, this version is still running in Disneyland Paris.
Ooh. Really?
Yep.
Ooh, sacre bleu!
Yep. There was Oh, go ahead. Sorry, Dave.
That's good to know. I mean, not that I'm going to Paris just to ride that ride, but it's almost kind of like heartwarming that it's still out there somewhere.
I've made dumber trips, so I could totally see me doing this. There was a big closing ceremony that was in conjunction with Celebration 5 called the Last Tour to Endor, where they did, a big late night supposedly last time you could ride it, but that wasn't actually true because it was open for another 3.5 weeks so that they could ride it out till Labor Day weekend, which is usually typically the biggest tourist weekend down here. So even though a lot of people spent a lot of money for that last outdoor ticket, sorry, that wasn't the last one, sucker.
It was like $75, I think, to go that night.
Like
it was expensive.
I do have a last tour on Endor popcorn bucket.
Yeah. Christy and I made out like bandits, man. We just did a race. Oh, well, we should talk about. Oh, no, I'll tell you. I just did a Disney Run Disney. I don't typically like Disney much anymore, but I love Run Disney events. I don't know why. Those races are just fantastic. But this race ended. It's called the Tower of Terror 10 Miler, and this ended in Hollywood Studios, and they had all the big rides open till 4 a.m. So they had Star Tours, and Muppets, Rock and Roller Coaster, Tower of Terror. Dave's favorite great movie ride was open.
Yeah.
So we went on whatever we wanted with no waiting, and it only cost me what I already paid was the admission for the race. And Christie's tickets was like $40 or $42 or something like that. So that was a hell of a freaking deal to go on the best rides for $40. Yeah.
Well, that's you're jealous of Matt and his proximity to that, because it's I don't know, maybe it's the kind of thing when you're that close to it and you can go all the time.
It's annoying after a while.
You don't, or it becomes old and it's not as novel. But I am a little jealous.
Yeah, well, that is one of the benefits of living in this state. Otherwise, there's not too many to speak of.
You got Jeb.
That's true.
I've only been on Star Tours once, and it was, like 11 years ago, and it was that obviously the original Star Tours. But I just remember going and just being just in awe, just the building outside and seeing the AT-AT and seeing the Jabba's skiff. It was like, it was one of those things, 10, 11 years ago, seeing replicas of the things you saw in the movie. That was still pretty new to me, and so I remember just going and just being just blown away by that. I don't even know what it looks like now out there.
Who's all been on the new Star Tours? I know for sure Chris has. Dave, have you been on it yet?
No, I haven't.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. And Tim, you haven't been on the new one yet, right?
I have not. No, I haven't been to Disney since that one time.
I was going to ask what everyone's opinion is of the new one versus the old one, but I guess it'd just be a quick conversation between me and Chris.
Well, go ahead. I'd like to hear it. I mean, you guys have a unique perspective that we don't.
I've seen.
I forget.
Sorry, I've seen some footage of the ride on YouTube.
It doesn't count, Tim.
I mean, but that's the only experience I've seen of the new one. Someone just snuck a camcorder in there and they showed you the 3D version, but not in 3D. It was like it was kind of blurry. But that's one thing I've seen.
I remember when we went to Celebration 5 and I went on that, and I think I could be wrong. I'm always wrong. That's probably what it could have been my first time ever doing that.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I was so excited. Like, oh, Star Wars, here I am, Star Tours. But then, it changed to the 3D, and I'm on that thing 7 or 8 times in a row. And it is cool. The 3D is amazing. I really didn't care about the whole line waiting.
That's the best part.
I didn't really. There was a thing where they have the X-ray machine.
Oh, that was neat, yeah.
Suitcases. And every once in a while, they, there's blasters, lightsabers. That was neat.
That's cool.
I have to admit, as much as I love the first, I absolutely love the first ride. That was like one of the few things I'd continue to go back to Disney for after living here for over 10 years. I'd still go to see Star Tours, and I was really sad to see it go. I really do think the new one's a vast improvement. It's incredible.
It's really
the 3D is amazing.
Yes, and that AT-AT's great, and the stores you leave's great, and that.
Well, it's weird.
Things cool too outside.
I went for the first time ever. I went to the one in California beginning of this month, beginning of September, and it really surprised me how much different the building was. The building looks nothing like the building at Disney World, and I finally found out why doing the research for this episode. That used to be a different attraction. Now I can't find what the hell it was called. It was like one of those look into the future attractions. It was like a learning attraction, and they rebranded it for Star Wars. So it was already built, and they didn't reface it because of expense. The important part was the ride inside. So that finally made sense why the hell that building looks so shitty compared to the Disney World one, which was built from scratch for Star Wars.
Right. It's like a big warehouse.
Yeah.
But to ask you, Matt, did you have the opportunity to do that build a droid on the way out or no?
I saw it. We didn't do it. I saw it. Yeah, there was well, no, there wasn't. Actually, there wasn't a line for anything. They didn't have it at Disneyland, but at Disney World they had it. There wasn't many people at any line when I was at Disney World last, but there were some little kids there. And oh my God, I mean, just as a side note, this was the hottest race I'd ever run in my life. And the humidity must have been like 300%. I did not dry until like 3 hours after. And I didn't want to stand next to some kids dripping in sweat and smelly and, so yeah, I didn't want to offend any kid. I actually didn't want to hear some kids say how much I stank because, kids don't censor themselves. So I avoided that.
I don't do censor myself.
Yeah. When did you say this debuted in Orlando? Well, or anywhere for that matter. Like, when did the ride first?
The original ride?
Yeah, the original one.
It debuted Disneyland in December of 1986 was its opening. It was its soft opening. It was an unannounced opening, and there was, for anyone passing by, happened to pass by would get, say, do you want to check out this new attraction? One of those soft openings. Its official opening was January 9th of 1987 at Disneyland.
Okay. And you said that was first. And
yes.
Orlando was like a year later or something like that?
Let's see if I have it was opened in Tokyo Disneyland next in July of 1989. And Hollywood Studios, formerly MGM Studios, in Disney World, December 15th of 1989. So almost 2 years later. In fact, more than 2 years later.
Did we go there on a class trip, Dave?
Yes, we did. In 1991.
I must have went on that back then. Had to.
Well, who knows?
I just forget.
I don't know. Because when I started thinking about it, I wanted to know exactly when it came out because I thought of Tim always tells this story about especially people of our age, there was a time when Star Wars, you didn't see it. I mean, it was like you didn't see toys, you didn't see whatever. And Tim was at some place and you saw some girl wearing a T-shirt and you got like all happy. Like people still talk about Star Wars. You tell that story all the time, Tim. Like how many years had passed, do you think?
Since that happened? At least it's probably been 20 years now.
No,
been 20 years.
From the time that like Return of the Jedi had come out to the time that you saw this girl wearing the T-shirt.
I would say 9 or 10 years. 9 or 10 years.
All right.
This is early 90s. I would say 92, 93.
Okay. So it's not too far away from when this ride opened. Because I kind of think I had that experience with the ride that you had with that T-shirt. Like this came out and my family lives in Florida. We went every year. I've been to Disney World 25 times at least. And we go every year. And I saw this ride was there. And we were older. Like we were not children anymore. And I remember that it was open and it was at a time when I thought people didn't care about Star Wars anymore. And I remember going on it and almost being embarrassed at how much I loved it. Like it was like people were going on. I was like, yeah, Star Wars. That was nice when that was out and they get on and get off. And I was on that thing as a much older and far older person than I should have been, pretending like I was like flying. I mean, like, like you're flying through the trench and I'm like sitting there like, holy crap, this is like really happening.
Oh, those seats are made perfect for that. They have like little handles on them where you can put your hands like you're controlling the ship. It's a perfect experience as far as that kind of thing is concerned.
Yeah, you would grip on it. It's like, oh, we're turning and I turn it.
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
And I'm shooting invisible buttons, and it's like, and I was way too old to be doing that. And it was like not to be corny, but it was like a magical kind of thing. And I guess that's why I have such an affinity for this.
Well, I have the same affinity, but not that you need my suggestion to do it, but you have to check out the new one next time you're here. It's amazing. I hate to say that particular change, because I hate every change with Star Wars, of course, because I'm an old, crotchety old dude when it comes to the original Star Wars, but it's phenomenal. I love it. And you're not going to believe I'm going to say this, but I think the Naboo scene might be one of the best, at least has the best 3D.
I totally agree. I remember when that happened, man, people in there, you will jump.
At the end?
Yes.
Oh, no. In the middle, there's one. I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I don't want to give it away to these guys, but yeah.
You will see, you will be jumped.
Yep, the Naboo one might be the best. I hate to say it, but it's true. I think the worst one, surprisingly for me, is the Kashyyyk one. Oh, I hate that.
Totally agree, man.
I hate it because it's got the worst piece of Star Wars music ever written.
And
the one that goes wah wah wah.
Oh yeah,
I hate that song.
That's the one that I kept on seeing the most.
That was.
I hated it the most.
I think I've now seen that one the most in the beginning, and I've seen the Death Star the most at the end. But I finally, after Disney World, I've now seen them all, so I can die happy. Anyway, sorry.
I wonder how I'm gonna feel about this because, like, loving the old one so much, I hope I'm not too critical.
I went into it with every intention to hate every second of it, and I'm sitting here gushing about it, Dave. I mean, if that means anything.
All right, because I just still, it's that gut reaction of going on it after all those years, and like you said, you're listening to the music. You're basically in a tiny movie theater watching Star Wars on a movie screen.
Don't get excited.
And that was a huge deal. I mean, like Chris said, the line, like I would get mad if we get through the line
Too
quick.
fast.
Like, I want to stand here and watch C-3PO. Like, that's C-3PO.
That's another good improvement they did between the two versions of the ride. I remember the first time, the first version of the ride, if you stood there for like more than 2 minutes, it repeated. I think they have a nice, probably like 10-minute loop now. So there's a chance that you'll only see the routine once.
Okay. I do remember, though, and I know Matt and I have talked about this, especially being projectionists. There was a time when you're watching it and there was like a green emulsion scratch on the film of the original Star Tours, and it would just like it'd take you out of the whole thing.
There was one time Christy and I went where the film must have just broke that day, and they spliced it and just removed just a couple frames, and that's all it took for the motion to be just off enough that it ruined the whole ride. Yep.
Huh. You'd think Disney would have that nailed down.
Well, I've never seen it again, and I know I've been in every single one of the rooms multiple times, so it must have just happened. Like, they had to get it up and running at that peak time and not take that room down for whatever reason. That's the only reason I can think was turnover. That's the only thing I can think that would keep them from fixing it properly.
Right. And I remember too, I mean, this all started as, talking about Captain Rex. They even had, and maybe still have, they have toys of him.
I do. I have a Captain Rex action figure, and I do have a Starspeeder 1000.
Very cool.
Or 3000. I'm sorry, 3000.
Right. That's awesome. I always saw those. I should get one of those. I never did, but now I'm really sorry I didn't. Do they still sell them?
Yeah. I bought Luke a little, like a Matchbox size one.
Well, that's cool. I mean, like I said, it did get annoying maybe as you saw it over and over again. But if I saw that right now, I'd want to give that little guy a hug.
I will give you a hug, boy.
Does this say anything, Matt? Does anyone here think that looks like number 5?
Yeah.
It reminds me, the voice certainly reminds me of it. There's another droid, I don't know what his name is, that looks exactly like him.
In the line?
Well, I should say 80% of him, like him. In the line, yep.
I know, it's the one that's working on like R5D4.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah.
And now I think now that droid is like scanning you as you go into the room, and he sounds like Patrick Warburton just brought up like 7 pitches higher.
That's right.
So I got just a couple more technical facts that I found interesting, and I think we got some pretty technical people that listen to the show. They might find this interesting. And again, this is probably the only time I'll ever do the episode, so I'm going to draw this out as long as possible. The ride is an Atlas motion simulator, and I never knew the name of it, and so therefore never knew that Atlas stood for Advanced Technology Leisure Application Simulator.
Mm-hmm.
And it was designed and built by the British-owned company Thomson CSF. I don't know what CSF stands for. I didn't write it down. Dave, you hit the nail on the head. There's exactly 40 seats to each vehicle.
Really?
Yep. And the original ride ran for 4 minutes and 30 seconds.
I believe it's that short. It seems longer.
Yeah, it does. Yep. You must be at least 3 foot 4 inches to ride this ride. And I saved the best fact. I think you'll all agree is the best fact for last. It's speculated that RX-45 makes a brief background cameo in a Star Wars novel.
Ooh, which one?
Not just any Star Wars novel. The Tales from the Mos Eisley Cantina. And not just any tale, but one last night in Mos Eisley, the tale of the Wolfman and the Lamproid.
Yes!
During the montage scene where Dice Ibegon shows Lax Sivrak what his future would have been like without her, which was the dogfight outside the new Death Star, when he's coming out of this little force-induced acid trip, he hears over the comm, he hears someone shout, "I've always wanted to do this."
That's awesome.
And it's speculated that was, in fact, RX-45 as he's passing by on his way to Death Star 3.
Oh, that's heartbreaking and great all at the same time.
And the words, to quote Tim, that's all I got.
Oh, you gotta have more.
I do. Well, we'll get to that. I do have a website. I do have a couple websites.
All right. I still have questions.
Okay. All right. I'm listening.
I want to know. Chris hates this. Because
I'm not hating it.
He doesn't like Disney World. He doesn't
I like Disney.
You're just like a curmudgeon.
Huh. I like Disney.
But I got questions about this Death Star. Like, I want to know.
Oh, I'm getting to that. Okay.
Okay. This is. I mean, maybe your fan fiction will answer this. But did you do research on that Death Star?
A little bit. There's not much. I will say this. A couple little blurbs, and I mean little. We're talking not even full sentences, sparked my 2-page essay.
Okay. Did they ever say when it was completed?
No. They said it was built during the time of the original Death Star, but not when it was completed. I filled that part in.
Okay,
so they were building all of them at once?
Well, that's what when I did the Death Star research, I said like once they got one, they were going to build it's like a chain, you know? It's like a belt.
It's a franchise.
But so you're saying that the second Death Star wasn't completed, but this thing was?
Yeah, sort of.
Okay.
My story should explain that.
Okay. Where is it during the ride? Like you're supposed to be
That's in my story.
Okay.
Stop stealing my thunder, Dave.
Story. Wait for the story.
Well, I can't wait because I got questions. Now, here's my last question. Maybe your story will also answer this. The exhaust port. They don't learn their lesson from Death Star 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever. The exhaust port is still a problem.
I don't have that in my story.
Okay. because that's what happens, right? I mean, it's just because I always assumed until you told me that that's supposed to be like you're in the trench somewhere behind Luke and Wedge and Porkins and everybody else, and you're just like along for the ride. But you told me that's not the same scenario.
No.
Okay.
We'll get to that very shortly.
Okay.
I'm almost done, Chris. Don't worry.
No.
I'll give my websites here real quick, and it's. I mean, you could probably guess what they were going to be. The first website I have is the record. I think it's the exact recording you were talking about, Dave. It's a YouTube link to the recording of the original ride.
Oh.
My second one is also a YouTube link, but it's called the ST45 project. It's a computer simulation of the ride, which is really impressive. It's not as good as watching the real ride, but the actual attention to detail is impressive. So I'd say watch one then the other, and I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. But now, again, since this is probably the first and possibly last time I host, I'm going to introduce a new segment that we'll probably never do again, and I'm calling it the Star Wars in character official canon submission. I'll put some echo behind that.
There you go.
So basically,
official canon submission.
This is us reaching out to our new friend Leland Chee, the continuity database administrator for Lucasfilm. I hope you're listening. If you are, consider this our first official submission into Star Wars canon. This is my take on what the Death Star 3 is. Okay, you guys ready for this?
Absolutely.
All right. Okay, let's start things off here. Okay, this is the Death Star in Star Tours, and it's not actually Death Star 3. I mean, even though Leland did name that, I'm going to say that he jumped too soon. It's not Death Star 3. It's actually Death Star 0 being the original Death Star. And by that, I mean when Palpatine first got the plans for the Death Star from Dooku and the Geonosians, he immediately put together a committee to get this thing done. I mean, he wanted it up and running. He wanted to get that thing out there. So the head of this committee was an accounting and engineer specialist and almost like savant, an Umbarian named Rolton. And Rolton took the idea that, to get this done, he planned out the construction input. He talked to contractors, suppliers. He brought all the financial numbers together. He got the plan together as fast as he possibly could. And once he had the plan all written out on a data pad, he handed a data pad proposal to one of his underlings, a human named Warren Lithal, to give it a once-over. Make sure the numbers are right, all the I's were dotted and the T's were crossed. Well, now, what Rolton didn't know is that this Lithal dude was kind of out for himself the whole time, and he had his own plan ready to show Palpatine. So he did take this original plan that Rolton came up with to the Emperor and just started bad-mouthing the hell out of it, saying, he focused on how how many workers it was going to take, that people are coming and going all the time. There's going to be hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people that know about this Death Star. And then let's start talking about money. You want to build this thing from the inside out. You're going to spend just an immeasurable fortune on spacesuits to get this thing done. But let me tell you this, Palpatine. I got a better idea. You know what? We're going to build this thing from the outside in, all right? We're going to put the shell around it. We'll be able to pressurize it properly. We'll get an atmosphere going, and we're even going to get some basic living quarters. That way, you got all your crew here. You got as few people as possible know about this thing, and then you start sending drone ships back and forth with supplies. Less people know about it, costs a lot less. You know, I think it's a good idea for you. And Palpatine said, oh, shit, yeah, you know, me and Masamita are going to save lots of money and get some bitchin' robes, right? So they went with this idea. They started to build it. Well, this plan was a complete disaster, all right? They built the outer shell. That's why when you see the Death Star, it looks like it's finished, but it ain't finished. It's just the outer shell. It didn't take them long to realize that they already built this damn thing and parts started arriving. These parts are too fucking big to get through the front door. So you can't, like, particularly, like, we're talking focal lenses for the super laser that you can't take apart, because the second you take them apart, they're not going to work right and they're not going to have the firepower. So now, you know, they built the thing, they got it pressurized, they got the atmosphere, they got to take a big chunk of the side of the Death Star out. They lose all that atmosphere, they lose all that pressure, they put in the parts, they seal it back up, repressurize it, re-atmosphere it. Week later, same goddamn thing happens. Like, shit, you know, we really messed this up. So Palpatine's pissed. He's like hemorrhaging money left, it's just flowing out of the Empire. Even though he owns the galaxy, this is still costing a shitload of money. Well, meanwhile, Rultan, the original accountant engineer genius, he's been pretty pissed watching all this go down, right? He's pissed at his, you know, he's got a good reputation. He's worked hard to get his position, and this little shit walks in and just shits all over his plan, and now he's doing nothing but running crappy numbers. He's doing taxes for the Empire is what it comes down to. So he's like, all right, you know what? In his free time, he's like, I'm going to get this little fucker. And he's seeing what's going on, and he's working on a plan. He finally gets it all together, and he goes, hey, he walks up to Palpatine. He's like, hey, your hind ass. You know, guess what? You keep going at this rate, this thing's going to cost you 6 to 7 times your original budget, you know, for what you originally had out for this Death Star, you know? But, you know, I got a solution here for you. I reworked the plan, but guess what? I did it all on my dime. And, you know, basically, it's going to cost you. But I'll promise you this, sight unseen, by the time you're done with my plan, it'll only cost you twice as much. So, okay, you lost some money, but I'm going to save you a shitload in the long run. And Palpatine's like, crap, all right, what do you want? He's like, you know what, I just want my position back, I want my good name restored, and, you know, I want a little bonus, you know, as Bill Murray said, a little something for the effort. So Palpatine, you know, he gives him his job back, he gives him a little kickback, all right, here's your money, let me see the plan. All right, he looks through the plan, and it's pretty good. So Roden Plan continues to use this existing Death Star Zero, as I called it, except it's now living quarters and a warehouse to build the next Death Star. So the concept that this Liefeld guy came up with is still pretty solid. You have a minimal amount of people, you can send drones and supplies back and forth and keep everyone on site so less people know about it. So it's kind of the best of both worlds. He's saving money, even though he's starting all over again, and not so many people know about the Death Star. So now they start rebuilding the Death Star. You get Death Star number 1, and as we said in the Death Star episode, they also simultaneously started building Death Star 2. So once they got the framework up and running, they shipped Death Star 0 out to Endor so that the crew and the construction workers and the suppliers and everyone could live there. And again, you don't have the traffic going back and forth. Less people know about this new Death Star. So they put Death Star 0 quite a distance away from Endor and Death Star 1 so that, you know, their gravity fields don't fuck everything up. So because of its distance from Endor, this is why when Rex overshot Endor, he came across Death Star 2. His trajectory was past Endor and brought it right, with Death Star 0. His trajectory shot him past Endor, but got him to right where Death Star 0 was. So he inadvertently kind of sort of discovered Death Star 0, except for the fact that an X-Wing squadron working off a tip about Death Star 2 did the same thing. They're like, okay, well, we don't want to get too close to Endor or Death Star 2, so we'll come out of light speed over here. Oh, shit, there's a fucking Death Star. Where'd that thing come from? So that's where this fight ensued from. So that's where, of course, we know the story. Rex gets involved. They blow up the Death Star, cause a real headache for Emperor. Again, him and Masamita aren't getting bitchin' new gowns because more money just got flushed down the toilet. So they blew up this dormitory / Death Star shell. And that's the end of that. A little bit of a side note, living conditions in Death Star Zero were deplorable. The plumbing and the temperature and basic living controls rarely ever worked. When the station was blown up, it was pretty much a mercy act for everyone living on board. Lastly, Rolton was put in charge of engineering and financial aspects of the first Death Star. He convinced Palpatine not to kill Lawful, saying, hey, he's a douchebag, he's a bit of a dick, but he's still a good engineer. Let's work him like a fucking dog, and then we'll do something with him. Emperor's like, yeah, whatever. Okay, you saved me a shitload of money. I'll trust you on this one. Well, that was Rolton's whole plan. Was now he took this little bonus he got from the Emperor, and he stationed this little shit Leifel onto one of those platforms without the guard railing near the Death Star laser, and he used that bonus to pay off the Imperial gunner to make an accident happen during one of the Death Star laser tests. That laser went off, and he accidentally got a little elbow to the ribs and hit that laser and just disintegrated. So Rolton was back in charge. Lawful was dead, and that was the end of that. So, and the last bit of the story was because of this financial snafu, the Emperor never did get a new bitchin' robe, and that's why he's got that boring black run every time we see him in the original trilogy.
All right.
All right, I'm back. What happened? Repeat that.
If that was too long and boring, I can certainly cut it out.
That was good.
The best part about this story was like the little commentaries, like the AI DAS. And then, where'd the fucking Death Star come from? That was the best part of the story. It was well told. I'm impressed.
So that's my take on the Death Star in the Star Tours ride.
Wow.
Yeah.
Leland Chi.
Start working on that, Leland.
I went to publish that story as a B-side.
That whole thing ended up
on Wikipedia. Wikipedia tomorrow.
And the Death Star, like a whole Death Star 3 page, but it's not Death Star 3.
It's Death Star 0.
Death Star 0 page. I think you're onto something.
Is it just a Death Star balloon?
I think that we should all do that. Like, all take our turn, and then when it gets to Chris, in his story, everyone will end up having sex with everyone else.
Yep.
Guaranteed.
Man, you see that Tauntaun do that Rancor? Shit, that's a big dick.
Why am I Southern?
Because anytime...
Sometimes.
Yeah, Tim does that impression.
You remember from like when we did our rehearsals for for a thing. Every time Tim had to talk,
he was Southern.
He had an accent, a Southern accent. That's all Tim does.
I'm surrounded by it down here.
Okay, Dave, any more questions on that Death Star, or is that pretty complete?
No, I think you that was far more than anyone in Lucasfilm has ever done on any script ever written.
I drove you into submission with all that.
I
filled in every blank.
You could talk about Star Tours for the rest of the day, and I'm happy. That's all I care about. Back, I'm going there now. I want to finish this episode.
He'll be right back.
Actually, I could
Star Tours in my mind.
I could drive over there right now.
You son of a bitch.
Put that in your face.
I used to drive my last job. I used to drive by the entrance every day, so I'd see that big. I don't even know what you would call it. The big entryway painting of R2D2 and C-3PO.
Oh.
In fact, I got about 15 feet from it during this race. I stopped and took a picture. I'm not sure I ever put that on Facebook. I should do that.
Star Tours.
Star Tours.
The proximity of the attractions is the only benefit to living in Central Florida. That's it.
Nothing but Star Tours.
Well, since Matt's in the, like we said, the prime real estate for this, but from the four of you, what do you think is the best movie themed ride out there? Like any park, anything. Like, what's the best
movie themed ride?
Best movie themed ride.
Trying to think. I've been to King's Dominion. That's a Paramount park.
What do they have there?
What do they have there? I'm trying to think. I'm trying to remember.
Is that where Superman Escapes is?
No, those are at the Great.
That's at Magic Mountain. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Honestly, for me, I think it's. I really like the original Batman ride at Great Adventure.
Ooh,
there in Jersey. That's That's one of the best.
What? It's not a roller coaster. It was like a ride.
It's a roller coaster, but you wait under like Gotham almost. There's all kind of and that car's there outside and everything. The Batmobile.
That's
like and the walk in. There's like a burned out car, and you just hear like gunshots and screaming. And I think there's little things like it came out around the time of the Batman Returns. So there's like this Oswald Cobblepot, statue set up. Yeah, and you go in the ride and you go up and you're into the Batcave and you see the Batman. The Michael Keaton Batman costume, and that's one of the first ones I remember going on. But that one still they put out different Batman rides, and I've been on a few different Batmans, and there's one in DC and one in Texas. But that one still holds up as the best of those movie rides.
Okay, well that's cool. I wouldn't have even thought of something like that. What about you, Chris? You go to a lot of theme parks.
I guess it's not the best one for a lot of people. But something that I was dying to go to for the longest time, and now it's gone. Was the Jaws ride?
Oh,
yeah. Me with Jaws, I thought that was fantastic. I just enjoyed being there and seeing that big shark hanging and going on that boat.
So even though the ride was,
it's not the greatest.
It was the atmosphere and
just to be a part of the whole Jaws.
Yeah, I mean, it's completely gone now, but that section of Universal was themed all around Amity. I mean, that's unusual for not only for the ride to be there, but that section of the park to be themed around it. So even though the ride was one bit of it, the whole thing was actually pretty big.
Yeah, and I think when we were just there, a couple months ago, everything's gone except one. There is one little building before you go to the part where it's gone. It still says Amity.
Yeah,
I want to say that it's like a fudge store or something, but it says Amity on top of it.
Mm.
That to me was like one of my best times going on the ride.
Cool. What about you, Matt? I mean, you've got more experience with than we do, and based on what you said about this Indiana Jones ride in Disneyland, I haven't been on it, but I'm willing to say that's probably the best.
I was just gonna say, if you would have asked me a little more than a month ago, I probably would have said Star Tours, even Back to the Future, because I used to love that. But no, Indiana Jones and the Temple of the Forbidden Eye is by far the best movie themed ride I've ever been on.
Well, that's cool. I mean, there's a lot.
It's pretty awesome.
Well, you did a nice job.
How about your Dave?
Well, thank you. Yeah, what's yours, Dave?
We were just down at Universal and that kind of stuff, and
Harry Potter, right?
Well, you know what? I got deathly ill on the Harry Potter ride. But I can sit and say that even though I got sick and I didn't enjoy it, that ride is an achievement that I've never seen anything like before. The outside of the ride, the inside of the ride, the queue. I mean, they make it seem like you're walking around that friggin' castle.
I was really upset. I mean, I make fun of it, blah, blah, blah. But when Matt and we were online for it, I was looking forward to it. Just to say, I went on it. I would have mocked it afterwards. I would have said it sucked. But it was cool waiting outside. And that building there, the castle, looks like you're right under the castle.
Yep.
It's amazing. It's an amazing achievement. And as sick as I was, I mean, I was sick, really sick. And that's my own problem. But, it was unbelievable what they've come up with, and I really, as much as I love Star Tours and all that stuff, nothing compares to that. To me, that's the greatest thing I've ever seen as far as one of these rides.
It is. I agree with that. It's so unfortunate that the ride is so referential to everything Harry Potter. I don't know what's going on in the ride. So, but I like the technology of the ride and the technology in line. But when I get on the ride, I'm completely lost, and I just don't enjoy it because I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
You start talking to the hologram.
I do. I start yelling at Robbie Coltrane. Where's my dragon? What fucking dragon? I don't know. Why are you yelling at me?
I loved you in Nuns on the Run.
Loved you in The Pope Must Die.
Oh.
That's awesome. Well, Matt did a nice job. Congratulations,
excellent job.
Matt.
Thank you.
Lots of great information. I could sit here all day and listen to this Star Tours stuff.
Ugh, really? Okay.
Kelly, don't look at me like that. First time I went on this ride, my dad got sick, and I thought it was hilarious. And And now we'll go on Harry Potter with my son, and I got sick.
Oh wow, yeah.
He'll be telling stories about
Circle
that on
of
his
life.
podcast.
Yeah. Harry Potter in character. My stupid dad got sick on Harry Potter. I sat there on the verge of puking, watching small children and old ladies get off that ride.
I was just saying, my mother's been on it ride just fine.
Yeah, with nothing wrong with them. I was looking at people like, come on, somebody else has got to be sick. Every single 100-year-old woman got off. She was like, fuck it, let's go on again. And I was like on the verge of death. But Star Tours.
Pass that pussy.
Wow.
That's her talking about you, the old lady.
I understand.
I certainly hope so.
Captain Rex, I love you.
Well, thanks for letting me do that. It was fun to do, if not all encompassing.
It was awesome.
Thank you.
Good idea.
You're welcome.
Happens every once in a while.
Chris, you're taking full credit.
Everything. Dave,
Yes.
is it time
It is time
for
Imperial Pursuit.
Toot.
Yay, Imperial Pursuit.
All right. Chris said we should have come up with Disney-themed trivia, but
Yeah, I didn't think of that until now.
that could possibly skew the results here.
Yes, true.
Because, like Tim said, he's been on... Like, if I did Star Tours trivia, it's not fair for Tim to have the same questions that Matt does. I mean, Matt's gone on it 100 times, and Tim's gone on it once.
I think that's a good idea now you put it that way.
Yeah, I've been on it once a decade ago.
So we're just doing straight-up regular trivia here. And the scores are like this. Matt is in first with 20.
That's right.
I'm close behind with 18. And then Tim with 13. And Chris with 5.
That's pretty good for me.
Congratulations.
Bye.
Thank you.
Are you proud of yourself?
A little bit.
Chris,
Yes.
you're first.
I'm listening.
Your category is Obi-Wan Kenobi.
See, that could be any one of them. All those movies.
And cartoon.
Yeah, truly.
You have 5 points. What are you betting on Obi-Wan?
Obi-Wan Kenobi.
I will say 2.
2 points.
2
2
points.
points on Obi-Wan.
Obi-Wan.
Okay, I will. Chris, you're going to like this one. This is one of your favorite sound clips.
Is it on here? Because I play it.
Well, you better get
there.
No. You better get your Anakin sound clips ready for this one.
All right.
Because
Why?
here's the question.
Why?
In Revenge of the Sith.
Well, see, I'm going to get this wrong.
In Revenge of the Sith, what was Obi-Wan's reply when a crippled Darth Vader yelled, I hate you!
Said what?
I hate you! Yeah. What did Obi-Wan say back to him after he said that to him?
That really hurts.
Is this like in quotes?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Christ.
It's actually 2 separate sentences in quotes.
I
Love
you.
I love you.
Anakin.
I'm looking for the Obi-Wan in those movies because
Oh, what are you going to see if you can find the...
I think I know it. I'm going to say, all right, I hate you. I loved you. We were like brothers.
Okay.
Especially my brother.
Is that your final...
Yeah, that's...
How do you want to say this? It is...
I love you. You taste like salty taffy.
Salty tech.
I
hate you! Burnt bacon.
Is this going to go towards the
Bacon?
It might have to.
That's awesome.
It might have to, yeah.
It might not be exactly what quote unquote word for word, but when he says this awesome line,
I hate you!
I loved you. We were like brothers. No,
I'm rubber, you're glue.
you suck me and I'll spew. No,
Wow. That's much better than what I came up with.
I was not going there.
that's my final answer. Not what I just said, but I said earlier.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I'll give him a point just for coming up with that.
I'll take it.
All right. Do you want the official answer?
From you, yeah.
You're very close.
Am I wrong still?
I didn't say that.
I'm
I said
listening.
you're very close.
Okay.
You said what? Well, say it again.
He says this. I hate you. I loved you. Gay what? No. I loved you. We were like brothers.
Okay.
Or you were my brother. Or you were brother's uncle. No?
There's a monkey and there's a boy, and you were one of them.
And you're my brother.
You have to give me a final answer because you're telling me 7 different things.
I love you. I loved you. We were like brothers.
I loved you. We were like brothers.
I loved you. You were my brother.
That's different than what you just said. What is your final freaking answer?
I loved you. We were like brothers. That's final answer. Yes.
Okay. If you would have kept the other thing that you said, it's
Well, why do you guys keep asking me? I gave you
because
that
you keep saying
10 minutes
different
ago.
things. It's exactly what you said, but reversed. The last thing. This is what the answer is.
I'm listening.
Quote, you were my brother. I loved you. I loved you.
Are you taking my answer or no?
End quote.
Go ahead.
I gotta go to the panelists.
Judges.
Because you did say that.
Mariah and who's there? And Nikki.
One of the 8,000 things you said was
Yes.
that in the wrong order, but
I'm listening. I am Matt. I love you, and Tim. I love you too.
all right.
Decide.
We'll do this in the order that we did it last time with your question. Tim?
Oh.
Meow.
Geez. Again, yeah, he's so close. He's so close. He's got the idea down. He's just a little mixed up in his presentation. He knows the scene.
Yes or no, Tim?
I am gonna say yes to his 2 points.
Okay.
Yes.
That's one vote for you.
Okay.
Matt.
You know what? Since he just sat patiently through that long episode I did and didn't attack me the way he usually would attack Tim under those circumstances, I can't say no. So it's a yes for me too.
All right. Well, that means you get the 2 points.
I get 7.
You are at 7. Congratulations.
7.
Yeah, you actually did say the exact answer at one point.
When did I say that?
You right before
When you said something about spewing.
Yeah, that's where I went all downhill.
Right when you gave me your 2 final answers.
Yeah.
You said that he said, I loved you, you were my brother, which is exactly what he says in reverse order, but then you changed it back to we were like brothers.
And then I said your brother's uncle.
Yeah. I don't know what
And then
that
I
was
said,
about.
And then he said spew. Yeah.
All right, well, congratulations.
thank you very much.
Sure. Tim,
Yes.
your category is the Galactic Republic.
Spew.
I'm gonna go 3 points. 3 points.
3 points.
Because I'm not really sure what they mean by Galactic Republic. I guess that's the prequel era. So I'll go 3.
Okay. 3 points on the Galactic Republic. Here's your question.
Uno, dos, 3.
In Revenge of the Sith, according to Padme, how does Liberty die?
Oh.
Oh. God. With
Wrong.
this is how, she says this is how Liberty dies with
You're wrong.
I'm gonna butcher this. She says something to that like with what's the word?
Spewing.
Well, I want to say I'm getting the word wrong, but it says something like with a rousing
Oh!
applause. Something like that. Something with applause in it.
This is how
Damn
Liberty
it.
dies. Shot right in my eye.
I told you to warn me.
If I achieved nothing else this episode, I got that out of Chris.
You have incapacitated him.
With something like with a round of applause, with cheers and applause. I'm doing the same thing Chris has done. I'm like, applause is in there, I think. Final answer, applause somewhere in there.
Passive negotiations.
Okay. What is your answer?
Something that has the word applause in it.
And that's your final answer?
What do you mean?
Yeah.
I'm not taking this answer.
All right, we got to go to the judges again.
Yes.
We did not have to do this last time. So, Chris, you'll go first.
Yes.
The answer is, quote, with thunderous applause.
I think the word thunderous should have been in there. So, Tim,
I'm sorry.
I'm gonna knock you down every time we go to the panel.
I can't give it to you
You son of a bitch! I'm
because I wanted Matt to maybe to be the. No, Matt can say yes, and Dave can be the tiebreaker. Go ahead.
I'll be the tiebreaker on this one. So, Matt, with thunderous applause is the answer, and Tim's final answer was something with the word applause.
You know what? I will let you be the tiebreaker to put you in that difficult position. Plus, Tim also sat patiently through my entire diatribe of that episode. So again, I can't say no. So yes from me.
All right, it's 1 vote yes, 1 vote no. And I will say this.
You're a funny little boy.
Thank you. If
I thought you hit that, Dave. It just everything just occurred to me what just happened there.
if you had kept your, I mean, arousing wasn't right, but if you would at least kept that as part of your answer with arousing applause, that would have been an answer. You totally bailed on your answer.
Yes.
Yeah, I did.
That is a no for me.
Oh,
Tim.
You're wrong.
Yes, I am wrong.
You bet 3, right?
I bet 3.
All right, you're back down.
Did I say 3? Yeah, 3.
Yeah. Chris, you're only 3 points behind Tim.
Suck it.
Only 3 points behind me, Chris.
All right. We're using the judges a lot lately.
We are.
I don't like that.
we're coming back a kinder, gentler podcast with each other.
Why can't we just get them right?
Oh yeah, there's that too. Always look on the bright side there, Dave.
Yeah, what's that?
Fuck, I don't know. I don't know where I was going with that.
That was funny. All right. Matt, here's your question. Your category is coming from, you're not going to like this.
Oh, boy.
Okay. Rick Ole.
Yeah.
Olé!
The prequel trilogy characters is your category.
Great. 2.
2 points. The prequel trilogy characters. Here's your question.
All right.
Are you brainless?
Are you brainless? In Revenge of the Sith,
Oh, boy.
who told Bail Organa, quote, hopefully we'll be able to intercept a few Jedi before they walk into this catastrophe?
Oh, fuck.
I understand.
So you need to give me a character name. What character said that to Bail Organa? If you want to hear the quote again, I'm more than...
No, it doesn't matter.
Kidster.
Hopefully we'll be able to intercept a few Jedi before they walk into the catastrophe. Well, it sounds like something Obi-Wan would say, but I don't think they were talking to each other after Order 66. And who the hell else would have known? Who was he hanging out? Well, one Jar Jar, because it would have been stupidly said. I don't know. I'm gonna go. I don't. I want to say it's Obi-Wan, but I don't think that's right. So I'll go with the other human he interacted with and say Amidala or Padme, or wherever she went by in Episode 3. Her, Padme.
Final answer?
Yeah,
Well, we don't need the judges for this one
because I'm that wrong.
because that is incorrect.
Damn.
Tim, you have an answer?
I believe it was. He was talking with Obi-Wan and
Really?
Yoda, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
Obi-Wan
That's not right either.
oh well, there you go.
It was Captain Antilles.
Oh,
Uh-huh. That's right. Captain Antilles is in that.
Captain Antilles at the end of episode 3, I guess.
the Rick Ole of Episode 3.
Olé!
That was a tough one.
Yeah.
All right.
So far, Chris, you're the only one that got it right.
That's
and,
right.
And that may have been charity.
I'll take it.
You'll take it.
I'll take it.
Charity.
All right. This is your category is who said that?
Who said that?
Yes.
I love stuff that's quotes and shit straight out of the movies. All right, Matt's down to 18. I think I have 18. We're tied right now.
What?
There it is. I found the answers.
I'm gonna say 2, and hopefully we'll flip flop and I'll have 20 and you'll have 18. So 2 points.
All right, Dave.
I should bet more, but
I'm just gonna
I'm trying to play the game here.
I haven't found the answer key yet for that, but this is who said these Federation types are cowards. The negotiations will be short. And that's under who said that. I looked under the answer key who did that. It says George Lucas. So I gotta find the who said that. Answer key.
Negotiations will be short. Read the thing again.
Who said these Federation types are cowards? The negotiations will be short.
Okay, that's from the opening scene of episode 1. It's either Qui-Gon or Obi-Wan. I hate that movie. I am going to say Qui-Gon Jinn. Final answer.
Talk among yourselves. Why the hell can I find...
Do you want to hear more about Death Star Zero?
Yes!
Here we go. Who said that?
Qui-Gon Jinn.
Qui-Gon Jinn?
Yes.
Qui-Gon Jinn to Obi-Wan aboard the Trade Federation ship at the beginning of the Phantom Menace.
All right. Back on top.
That's what she said.
That means I have 20. Matt has 18.
Very good.
Tim has 10 and Chris has 7.
This is the
7.
best round we have done. I mean,
Lot of popping.
Yep. This is exciting.
All right.
That's what she said.
Ugh.
Exciting.
Well, we'd like to thank you for listening to our Star Wars and character discussion about Rex
Rex.
RX-24. Join us next time when we discuss Snaggletooth.
Man, I can hear that all the way from Nashville.
Thanks for listening to Star Wars in Character. Star Wars in Character is part of the neozaz.com network of podcasts. For more great podcasts and original entertainment, please visit www.neozaz.com. Star Wars in Character is not affiliated with nor endorsed by Lucasfilm Limited or 20th Century Fox. Star Wars and all Star Wars universe characters, places, or Star Wars related items are the copyright of Lucasfilm Limited or their respective trademark and copyright holders. Visit www.swic.neozaz.com for the latest Star Wars in Character episodes and information.